Stay behind me.
A poor boy saves a famous singer from a dangerous fan, only to discover she is tied to the family past he never knew existed. The city was alive in the pulse of the night. Neon lights reflected off the slick, rain-soaked streets of Lagos, glimmering like shattered jewels under the heavy clouds. In a narrow alleyway far from the bustling main avenues, a young boy moved with the cautious grace of someone who had grown up seeing the world from the shadows. His name was Kofi, a 16-year-old whose life had been a constant struggle of survival. Every day, he ran errands, delivered packages, and dodged trouble just to keep the small roof over his mother's head intact. His clothes were worn, shoes scuffed, yet his eyes burned with a restless determination that nothing could quench. Kofi had never imagined his life would intersect with fame and danger in the way it would tonight. It started as a routine errand. He had been sent to deliver a package to a venue hosting a high-profile concert, a place bustling with security guards, photographers, and a frenzy of screaming fans. But the city had its own plans. As Kofi ducked behind a low wall, trying to avoid the glaring cameras and the stampeding crowd, he noticed a commotion near the backstage entrance. There, a figure struggled against a fan who had somehow slipped past the security cordon. The fan's grip was desperate, almost wild, his eyes glinting with obsession. But what caught Kofi off guard was the young woman in distress, a famous African singer, known across the continent for her voice that could charm even the hardest hearts. Her golden brown skin shimmered under the floodlights, her expensive designer gown torn slightly from the scuffle, hair dampened from the light drizzle that had begun to fall. Despite the glamour, there was a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes that made Kofi's heart tighten. Without thinking, Kofi sprang into action. He shoved past the crowd, grabbed the fan's arm, and pulled with a strength born of desperation and instinct. The fan stumbled, letting go of the singer, and Kofi pushed her back into the relative safety of the shadows behind a delivery truck. The singer's eyes met his, wide with a mixture of fear, gratitude, and disbelief. "Thank you," she whispered, voice trembling yet melodious, sending a shiver down his spine. The fan, however, was not defeated. He shook off the initial shock, snarling, and made another move toward them. Kofi's mind raced. He grabbed a discarded umbrella, swinging it with a precise aim that sent the fan sprawling across the wet pavement. The man cursed, disappearing into the crowd, leaving a trail of chaos behind. Kofi stood panting, his heart hammering in his chest, the city lights reflecting off the rain-soaked asphalt like a distorted mosaic of danger and triumph. The singer stepped closer to Kofi, brushing rain-damp strands of hair from her face. You saved my life," she said again, more insistently this time. Her eyes studied him, searching for something she couldn't name, a truth, a spark, a sense of familiarity she couldn't place. Kofi, still catching his breath, felt a strange pull, as if some invisible thread connected them beyond the moment of crisis. "Are you okay?" he asked cautiously, aware that danger could still be lurking. I am now," she replied, her voice softer, almost trembling. She glanced at the venue, at the throngs of people who hadn't noticed the narrow escape. You just appeared out of nowhere." Kofi managed a small shrug, trying to mask the sudden surge of adrenaline with calm. "Sometimes that's how life works. You appear where you're needed most," he said. There was a pause. The rain began to fall harder, dripping off the singer's gown and the brim of Kofi's hat. The lights from the street lamp above flickered as though echoing the tension in the air. And then, with a tilt of her head, the singer spoke a name that made Kofi freeze, his stomach nodding with a mix of fear and disbelief. "Kofi?" she said softly, almost questioning, as if trying to remember a half-forgotten memory. Kofi's heart skipped a beat. How did she know his name? And more importantly, why did the sound of her voice feel so familiar, as if it were part of a story he had long buried in the shadows of his childhood? The moment hung between them, fragile and heavy with unspoken questions. The city around them continued its chaotic rhythm, oblivious to the silent electric connection forming in that rain-soaked alley. And in that instant, Kofi realized that saving her life was only the beginning of a story far larger than either of them could yet comprehend. As they moved toward a safer corner, the singer glanced back at the direction the fan had disappeared, shivering despite herself. There's more to this than you know, she said cryptically. I think you're tied to my past. More than you realize. Kofi's pulse quickened. What could she possibly mean? His life had been nothing but struggle, nothing glamorous, nothing public. How could it connect to the world-famous singer he had just saved? The night held its breath, the rain pattering against the concrete like a heartbeat. And somewhere in the shadows, a secret waited, ready to unravel a past neither of them fully understood. The rain eased into a soft drizzle, turning the streets of Lagos into glistening mirrors of neon light. Kofi led the singer, whose name he now knew was Amahle, into the narrow side streets, away from the lingering chaos of the concert venue. Every step echoed in the silent alleyways, punctuated by distant car horns and the occasional shout of night traders closing their stalls. The city had shifted into a quieter rhythm, yet the tension between them remained palpable. Amahle glanced at him, her dark eyes reflecting curiosity and something deeper recognition. Kofi, she said again, her voice quieter this time, almost like a whisper shared between ghosts. Your name, it's familiar. Do you know what I'm talking about? Kofi frowned, his memory flickering like a broken film reel. He had grown up in the toughest parts of the city, where every day was a fight for survival. But there were fragments of his childhood that he had long buried. A family separated by tragedy, whispered rumors of distant relatives he had never met, and the aching absence of answers he had spent years searching for. Something about Amahle's tone stirred these memories, making his chest tighten. I don't know what you mean, he admitted, trying to steady his voice. But the hesitation betrayed him. Deep down, he felt it too, a connection he couldn't explain. They reached a small, dimly lit cafe tucked between two abandoned shops, its neon sign flickering lazily above. Amahle gestured toward a corner booth, and they sat, the sounds of the city muffled by the thick glass windows. She studied him intently, as if trying to read the story etched into his features. You've got the same eyes as him, she said suddenly, almost to herself. Kofi's head snapped up. Who? He asked, leaning forward. Her gaze was intense, searching for a truth she was desperate to find. My father, she replied, the words heavy in the quiet space between them. He had a brother. No, I know you're connected to him, to me. Kofi felt a chill run down his spine. The streets of Lagos, the struggle, the life he had known, it all seemed to shrink into insignificance against the weight of this revelation. My father? He echoed. I don't know him. I never knew my father. Amahle reached out tentatively, her fingers brushing his hand. The touch was light, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken questions. It's complicated, she said. I don't understand it all yet, but there's something in your past, something that links us, and that's why tonight felt like fate. Before Kofi could respond, a sudden movement outside the cafe caught their attention. Shadows flickered past the rain-streaked windows, and a shiver of danger ran down Kofi's spine. The fan, they hadn't gone away. He had thought the man disappeared into the crowd, but the way he lingered in the periphery told Kofi that this was far from over. Amahle's eyes widened. He followed us, she whispered, fear creeping into her elegant tone. Kofi nodded, his instincts kicking in. Every survival lesson from his childhood surged forward. We need to move, he said, standing abruptly. We can't stay here. They slipped out through the back, avoiding the streetlights, Kofi's heart pounding in rhythm with every cautious step. The fan's shadow loomed closer, persistent, like a dark stain refusing to fade. Yet Kofi felt a strange strength he hadn't known before. Something about Amahle's presence, her trust, and the sudden glimpse of a shared past gave him courage. As they navigated the maze of alleyways, Kofi's mind raced. Why was Amahle's life in danger? How did their families' pasts intertwine? He had lived all his life thinking his struggles were his own, yet now, in the rain-soaked streets of Lagos, he realized that fate had drawn a much larger map, one that connected him to fame, secrets, and a family he never knew existed. They finally found refuge in an old, abandoned warehouse tucked behind the music venue. The interior smelled of dust and rust, the windows cracked, allowing the drizzle to leak in and create small puddles on the concrete floor. Kofi motioned for Amahle to sit on an overturned crate while he peered through a crack in the wall, scanning the streets for any sign of the fan. "He's gone, for now," Kofi murmured, lowering himself beside her. "But he'll come back. People like him don't give up easily." Amahle nodded, her fingers nervously twisting the fabric of her torn gown. I think he's not just any fan. There's something more, something dangerous about him, and maybe he knows about us." Kofi's stomach dropped. "Us?" he repeated. The word hung in the air like a warning. "Yes," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the dripping water from the leaky roof. "Us, you and me. Our families. There's history here, Kofi. A history that someone doesn't want uncovered. And tonight was just the beginning." Outside, the city continued its restless hum, but inside the warehouse, time seemed to stretch. Two lives, once strangers, now inexplicably intertwined, sat in silence, aware that the next steps they took would lead them deeper into danger, mystery, and the shadows of a past neither fully understood. And somewhere in the distance, hidden in the darkness, the fan lingered, watching, waiting, patient, because some dangers once set in motion refused to be stopped. The warehouse was quiet, but the silence felt heavy, almost alive. Rain continued to drip from the cracked roof, forming small puddles that reflected the dim light filtering through broken windows. Kofi and Amahle sat across from each other, the tension between them thick with unspoken questions. Each second stretched, weighted by the knowledge that the world outside could collapse on them at any moment. Amahle broke the silence first, her voice soft but urgent. "Kofi, there's something I need to tell you, about my family and yours." Kofi leaned forward, heart pounding. Every instinct in him screamed both fear and anticipation. "What is it?" Amahle took a deep breath, gathering courage. "My father, he passed away years ago, but before he did, he left a series of letters I only recently discovered. And in those letters, he spoke about a brother he lost, someone he never found after the family was torn apart. Kofi, he was talking about you." Kofi froze. His mind reeled back to childhood memories, fragments of a man he vaguely remembered. A brief encounter with someone who had seemed familiar yet distant. Could it be true? Could the boy struggling to survive in Lagos actually be part of a family he had never known? Amahle's eyes searched his face, trying to gauge his reaction. "I know it sounds impossible," she continued, "but the resemblance, the timing, it's too close to ignore. And tonight, when I saw you, I felt it. Like the universe was trying to tell me something I couldn't yet understand." Kofi's thoughts swirled like a storm. His father, lost relatives, letters, destiny. The ordinary life he had known suddenly seemed like a fragile illusion. Why didn't anyone tell me?" he asked, voice tight with emotion. Amahle shook her head, her own emotions threatening to spill. "Some truths are dangerous. There are people who want these connections buried. And that fan, tonight, I think he's not just obsessed with me. He's searching for something tied to our families." A shiver ran down Kofi's spine. "Our families?" he repeated, the realization sinking in. "You mean it's not just me in danger?" "No," Amahle said firmly. "It's both of us. And we need to figure out why. Why our pasts are connected, and why someone wants to keep it hidden." Outside, the faint sound of footsteps echoed against the wet pavement. Kofi instinctively crouched near the window, peering through the cracks. The fan had returned, circling the warehouse like a predator stalking its prey. His pulse quickened, but a newfound resolve hardened within him. He had survived the streets of Lagos, navigated alleys, and dangers most people never imagined. But this threat was different. This was about family, destiny, and protecting someone who suddenly felt as important as life itself. "Kofi," Amahle said, breaking through his thoughts, "we need to move. We can't stay here. He'll keep coming." Kofi nodded, scanning their surroundings. The warehouse offered little cover, and the fan's presence outside was becoming bolder. "There's a safe house," he said, thinking fast. "My uncle, he helped me when I was younger. If we go there, we can figure out what's really happening." Amahle's eyes widened. You have someone we can trust?" Kofi nodded. "Yes, but we need to leave now. They slipped out the back, moving through shadowed alleys, the rain masking their footsteps. Every corner they turned, every streetlight that flickered above heightened the tension. The city that had once been just a place of survival was now a labyrinth of danger and destiny. As they reached a quieter street, Amahle paused, glancing back. Kofi, I know this is sudden and I don't understand everything yet, but I feel like I've known you longer than tonight. Like our lives were meant to cross paths. Kofi swallowed hard, emotions roiling inside him. I feel the same, he admitted. The weight of the past, the uncertainty of the future, and the adrenaline of the night made every word feel like a confession. They continued through the rain-soaked streets, finally arriving at a modest, well-hidden apartment on the outskirts of the city. Kofi knocked in a pattern only he and his uncle knew, and the door creaked open. Uncle Ade, a tall, wiry man with sharp eyes and a calm presence, ushered them inside. You're safe here, for now, Ade said, locking the door behind them. But tell me everything, Kofi. Start from the beginning. Kofi glanced at Amahle. She nodded, her eyes filled with trust and expectation. And so, in that small, dimly lit apartment, the tale began to unfold, the story of lost family, hidden connections, and secrets that powerful people wanted to keep buried. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city in a silvery sheen. Somewhere beyond the walls, the fan waited, patient and relentless. The chase had only begun, and the past was reaching out to claim both Kofi and Amahle, entwining their destinies in ways they could never have imagined. The safe house was modest but secure, tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The air inside was thick with tension. Kofi and Amahle sat across from Uncle Ade, whose sharp eyes flicked between them like a hawk sizing up its prey. Outside, the city's rain continued to drum against the roof, masking the distant sounds of footsteps and moving cars. Kofi, Ade began, his voice low but firm, you've finally come back into the path your father set for you, but there's danger in uncovering the truth. Kofi leaned forward, anxiety gnawing at him. What truth? I've spent my whole life alone, surviving. Now you're telling me my past is tied to hers? Amahle's voice trembled slightly, though she tried to stay composed. Uncle Ade, what do you mean? What exactly happened between our families? Ade exhaled slowly, as if weighing every word. Years ago, your fathers were business partners, brothers in ambition and in blood, but greed, betrayal, and envy tore the families apart. One night, a secret deal went wrong, and both families were scattered. Lives were lost, and names erased. The world believes our histories are separate, but it's all connected. You and Amahle, you're the living remnants of a legacy some would kill to keep hidden. Kofi's head spun. Every hardship he had endured, every sleepless night in the streets, every moment of struggle, it suddenly seemed like pieces of a puzzle that was bigger than he could comprehend. So, the fan tonight, he's after us because of this? Ade's eyes darkened. Yes, that man is not just an obsessed fan. He's part of a group that knows the truth about your families. They've been hunting anyone who could expose the secrets. Amahle's fame made her a target tonight, but you, Kofi, you are the key. They need to eliminate the bloodline entirely. Amahle gasped, her hand clutching Kofi's arm. This is insane. How could anyone go to such lengths? It's not insane, Ade replied grimly. It's calculated, and they are patient. They wait for the perfect moment. Tonight, they almost got you both. A sudden sound outside the apartment made them all tense. Footsteps echoed faintly against the wet streets. Kofi moved instinctively toward the window, peering through the blinds. The fan had returned, more determined, more dangerous, his silhouette now unmistakable in the dim city lights. They know we're here, Kofi muttered, his jaw tightening. We can't stay. We need a plan. Ade nodded. I've already prepared a way out. But before that, you need to understand the history. Your father, Kofi, and Amahle's father, they tried to stop a power struggle within the family business. When they were betrayed, they were forced into hiding. Documents, letters, and evidence were scattered across the city to protect the truth. Whoever recovers these documents controls everything, including lives. Amahle's eyes widened. So, all those years, our family's feud wasn't just personal. It was dangerous, life-threatening. Yes, Aid confirmed, and tonight proved it. You, Kofi, saved her. But now, the danger is greater. That man will not give up. Kofi's mind raced. Survival had always been instinctive for him, but now it required strategy, planning, and trust in people he barely knew. He glanced at Amahle, whose face reflected courage despite fear. "We'll face this together," he said quietly. "We don't run anymore." Aid placed a firm hand on Kofi's shoulder. "Good. But understand this. The truth is heavy. Once revealed, there's no turning back. The past will collide with the present, and the consequences can be deadly." A subtle noise outside, a metallic click, perhaps the fan testing the door, made them all freeze. The storm outside had become a backdrop for something far more sinister. The hunter was close, patient, and relentless. Amahle took a deep breath, her gaze unwavering. "Then let's uncover the truth before he does. Whatever it takes, Kofi. We can't let them win." Kofi nodded, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. For the first time, the streets, the struggles, and the dangers of Lagos felt like preparation for this very moment. Fate had brought him here, to protect, to survive, and to face the shadows of a past he had never fully known. Ade opened a hidden compartment in the apartment wall, revealing stacks of old letters, photographs, and faded documents. "These hold the key," he said. "Start here, piece it together, but stay alert. They're watching." The rain continued outside, relentless, a mirror to the storm now brewing in their lives. And somewhere in the shadows, the fan lurked, patient and calculating, ready to strike the moment they made a mistake. The past and present were colliding, and Kofi and Amahle stood at the center of it all, their destinies intertwined, their courage tested, and their secrets waiting to explode. The night had deepened into a velvet black silence, broken only by the occasional drip of rain and distant city sounds. Kofi, Amahle, and Uncle Ade had spent hours sifting through letters, photographs, and documents, uncovering a story of betrayal, greed, and lost family ties that stretched back decades. Every revelation sharpened the edges of danger surrounding them, and the presence of the relentless fan loomed heavier than ever. "We have to end this tonight," Ade said, voice taut. "He won't stop. If we don't face him now, he'll keep coming until one of you is dead." Kofi clenched his fists. Fear had been his companion for years, but now it fused with determination. "Then we face him, together," he said, glancing at Amahle. Her eyes mirrored his resolve, glinting with courage despite the exhaustion etched on her face. Using the clues in the documents, they discovered the location where the fan planned his attack, a derelict warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was the same area Kofi had once traversed alone as a boy, navigating the shadows of Lagos with instinctual skill. Now armed with knowledge, strategy, and the strength of newfound family bonds, he felt ready. As they approached the warehouse, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and reflective. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the faintest movements hinted at danger. Kofi's pulse raced, every sense on high alert. The fan was there, waiting, patient, and menacing. His face was obscured, but his presence radiated obsession and lethal intent. Amahle whispered, "We need a plan. We can't just run into him blindly." Kofi nodded, scanning the area. He spotted an overhead catwalk and a stack of crates nearby. "We use the environment," he muttered. "Distract him, divide him, then corner him. We've got this." The moment they stepped inside, the fan lunged. But Kofi was ready. Using a combination of quick reflexes and agility honed from years in the streets, he dodged and maneuvered, guiding Amahle behind cover. The warehouse became a battleground of shadows, flickering lights and echoing footsteps. Every move was calculated, every breath measured. Amahle, despite her fear, acted with unexpected skill, throwing objects to distract the fan, helping Kofi trap him between crates. They worked seamlessly. Their connection, deeper than just strategy, was instinct, born of trust, fate, and a shared past, neither fully understood until now. Finally, Kofi cornered the fan against a wall. "It ends here!" he shouted, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The fan's mask of obsession faltered, revealing not just anger, but desperation. He lunged one final time, but Amahle and Kofi's coordinated effort overpowered him. The man fell to the ground, defeated, his threat neutralized for now. Breathing heavily, Kofi looked at Amahle. The adrenaline of survival surged through them, but so did a profound sense of relief and clarity. "We did it," he said softly. Amahle nodded, tears mixing with rainwater on her cheeks. "We did, but there's so much more to understand. About us, our families, our pasts." Uncle Aid stepped forward, placing a steady hand on Kofi's shoulder. "The past is no longer a weapon against you. The truth is out. Your father's legacies, their sacrifices, it all leads to this moment. You both are the future, and tonight you survived because of courage, trust, and unity." In the quiet aftermath, as the first light of dawn began to touch the city, Kofi and Amahle looked at each other with newfound understanding. Their lives, once separate and shadowed by uncertainty, were now intertwined, bound by blood, fate, and the trials they had endured. The fan, restrained by authorities who arrived shortly after their confrontation, would face justice. But more importantly, the secrets of the past, the betrayal, the lost letters, the hidden family connections had been uncovered. The legacy that threatened to destroy them had been reclaimed and transformed into something that could now empower, not endanger. Kofi took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. "Amahle, we survived the night, and I think we can face whatever comes next, together." Amahle smiled, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and hope. "Together," she echoed. The storm of their past had passed, and ahead lay a future of possibility, unity, and understanding. The city outside was waking up, the rain turning to soft sunlight glinting off puddles on the streets. Lagos, so vibrant, chaotic, and alive, was now a stage for a new beginning. A boy who had grown up in the shadows, and a singer who had faced obsession and danger had rewritten their destinies. And though their story was only beginning, they had survived, learned, and emerged stronger.